I sent you a letter asking for $1 million, would that be inexcusable?
Is this actually comparable to what Trump did? Because what Trump did was trying to get the DOJ to lie for him to overturn the election results.
Did he make any threats?
He threatened to fire the attorney general if he didn't send the letter.
Where is that documented?
Clark told Rosen, and Rosen testified to this, that the timeline had moved up and that he was going to get fired from his position and that they were going to give Clark that position.
Sorry, do you have a source for this?
It's in the J6 report.
Okay, so let's get this straight. There was testimony from somebody who said that the attorney general would be fired if he didn't overturn election results from his state.
So here's what happened. Jeffrey Clark wrote this letter and gave it to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump tried to pressure Jeffrey Rosen and Richard Donahue to send that letter, and they refused because the DOJ hadn't found any evidence of fraud like the letter was claiming. So Trump tried to get them to send that letter a couple more times, and they refused both of those times. And then he told Jeffrey Clark, hey, how would you like to have the attorney general role so you can send this letter? And he said, yeah. And the only reason that they didn't put Clark in was because half the DOJ threatened to quit if he became the attorney general.
Okay, so did he say explicitly that, like, I'm going to put you in this role so you can overturn the election?
So he could send the letter to the state legislatures, yeah.
Okay, and can you tell me, like, what page of the J6 report it says this, or, like, a keyword that I could search to discover this?
It's in a bunch of testimony. I know that, what's the one guy's name? Give me 1 second. Eric Hirschman, in his testimony on page 48.
Okay, wait 1 second. You're looking. What is the what is this on, like, justice.gov or something, or House Committee or whatever?
If you look up the Eric Hirschman testimony for the J6 committee, it should come up. It's on page 48.
1 second.
He describes the whole meeting.
1 second. Eric Hirschman testimony, Jace.
Mm-hmm. It's also laid out in the federal indictment as well, or was.
Okay, so, all right, let me pull this up real quick.
You also have Donahue saying that, or testifying that Trump said to him on a phone call, just say the election was corrupt and leave the rest of me and the Republican congressman.
Okay, 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just pulling up the speaker.
It also comes down to the only reason that Clark would have been put in that position is because of the letter, because Clark had no experience in a high-level position in the DOJ. He was like a low-level environmental lawyer that Trump shouldn't have even had communication with. It violated White House policy and DOJ policy for Trump to even communicate with him like that.
All right, okay. All right, so you said page 47?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a big interview. He talks about in what I just told you to look up is Hirschman talking about the grilling. He says essentially like, oh, why shouldn't I put Clark in? Because Rosen, you haven't been doing anything. It details a meeting that was on January 4th.
1 second. I'm reading this. It was just a social conversation that was going on. I don't have any conversation about that. He said at some point the telephone conversation with me. Yes. I didn't mean. No, I should be a question. Oh, wait, hold on.
I think it was in the Hirschman. Oh, wait, no, I linked you to the wrong thing. My bad.
Okay.
What I was referring to, I don't have my links categorized right. So what you actually want is the Jeffrey Rosen interview on page 48, where it says, one thing we know is you, Rosen, aren't going to do anything, and you don't even agree that I'm right about these concerns that people are telling me. The other guy has a different plan, Tell me why that's not the better way to go. You've made it clear you're going to do nothing.
Wait, 1 second. J6 interview. Rosen. Okay, is this it? 14 select committee investigate or transcribed interview of Jeffrey Rosen. Okay.
Yeah.
You said page 48?
Should be.
Okay. One second. Okay.
Around line 14 says the president said something near the very beginning. One thing we know is that you, Rosen, aren't going to do anything.
Wait, this is not what it says on page 48. One second. Okay, I'm going to read the whole page. That part of your strategy or your approach was to ensure factual accuracy that you would push back if there were misconceptions. Yes.
No, I don't think we're reading the same thing. Are your messages open?
Yeah, they're open. I'm reading transcribed interview with Jeffrey Rosen, or is that his name? Yeah. Yeah, Jeffrey Rosen, page 48. Are you sure? Is it 47 or 48?
Okay, 48. I've got a specific doc. I can send you the link if you want me to.
Yeah, where is that doc from?
Because
I'm looking at.
I got it off of the January. So when you go to the J6 report, it links a bunch of interviews and transcribed, a bunch of transcribed interviews.
Yeah, I'm reading it directly from gov.info.gov.
I'm reading it from judiciary.senate.gov.
Okay, here, 1 second then. Let me go back on this.
So just out of curiosity, have you heard anything about this before?
Sure, yeah, I've heard of it. Wait 1 second. Let me get, okay, so I'm on the right document now. Okay. Page 48. But obviously there's so many different nooks and crannies of this whole election thing that it's hard to know like every interview that happened. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. Okay. But a lot of this is corroborated between a bunch of different accounts and a bunch of different.
Okay, wait, hold up. Okay, so which question is it? Okay, line 15. Okay, so the question is, in the draft, Jeff Clark. So who is this? Okay, so this is an interview with Jeffrey Rosen, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So the discussion then related to voter fraud and election fraud related allegation. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me read this whole page. So approximately 2 hours. Yeah, maybe even a little longer than that. So the discussion then related to voter fraud and election fraud related allegations. Yes. Question. And the draft Jeff Clark letter was also discussed. Yes. I mean, as I said, since the meeting was done at my request, it was the president said something near the very beginning. One thing we know is you, Rosen, aren't going to do anything. And you don't even agree that I'm right about these concerns that people are telling me. Okay? This other guy has a different plan, you know. Tell me why that's not the better way to go. You've made it clear you're going to do nothing. Okay, hold up 1 second. Yeah, so maybe I'm failing to understand this here. So Trump seems to have concerns that there was voter fraud. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So Trump is the president of the United States. Yes.
Yes.
The president of the United States is in charge of nominating people to be attorney generals. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. They have to be confirmed by the Senate. Yes.
Yes. Basically.
And there's no way to subvert that.
So, I don't know the technicality of being an acting in your acting position and being confirmed by the Senate, but we can assume yes.
Yes. Yeah. So you have to be nominated by the president, and then that nomination is then heard before the Senate, and the Senate confirms the person as the Attorney General. So Trump has concerns that he feels are not being heard by the current person who is in that position that he's in charge of essentially appointing with the consent of the Senate. Okay. So he says, because this person does not care about my concerns, the concerns that I have, I think something wrong happened here, and I have concern. And by the way, I don't agree with Trump on his concerns, right? I don't agree that the election was stolen, but he said, essentially, I have these concerns that there was voter fraud, and the guy who is currently the Attorney General is not acting on those concerns. I'm in charge of appointing, with the consent of the Senate, who is the Attorney General. So I'm going to appoint somebody else to be the Attorney General because this person is not acting on what I feel is important. What is the legal issue with that? What is the moral issue with that?
We're not necessarily talking about a legal issue, because if we were, the Supreme Court already exonerated him from this. Specifically in their ruling, they said that this was protected. More so, the problem is that on its face, he was trying to fire this guy who told him that the DOJ hadn't found any evidence of election fraud, because he wouldn't send out a letter with the DOJ stamp of approval saying that there was election fraud to these states. He was trying to pressure his DOJ to lie to the states, and he threatened to fire them whenever he wouldn't concede into doing that.
Okay, so how do we know for a fact that is the only reason that Trump wanted to do this? And it had nothing to do with because he didn't feel that it was being investigated enough. It didn't have anything to do with the fact that he was, the level of effort that he was putting in. It had only to do with the fact that he wouldn't send out the letter.
Well, because he was trying to replace him with Jeffrey Clark, who his only qualification was that he would send that letter.
That's not evidence, that's conjecture.
Dude, so what?
We're working off of incomplete evidence from a House Oversight Committee that was packed full of people who hate Trump with not a single advocate for him on the fucking committee.
So this is also, it's not just the J6 report. This was in the indictment. This is all, I'm reading the interviews to you. I'm not reading.
That didn't have a single advocate for Trump on it. It's like
I'm reading the interviews to you.
No defense.
I'm reading the interviews to you. I'm not citing the J6 report necessarily. I'm reading the interviews that they conducted with them.
Yeah, where did these interviews come from? Who conducted the interviews?
Are you saying that they were asking leading questions? Like what specific bias are you trying to say that these interviews had?
I'm just pointing out the fact that interviews held under the January 6th Oversight Committee, right? That was packed full of Democrats who vehemently hated Donald Trump and Republicans who also vehemently hated Donald Trump.
So why would
some degree of bias? And we're working off of incomplete evidence.
What reason would Rosen and Donahue have to testify against Donald Trump if none of this happened?
Wait, I'm not saying that none of this happened. I've never denied that any of it happened. What I'm saying is that nothing illegal happened, and it doesn't even seem that anything particularly wrong happened.
I'm not talking about the legality of it. I'm just saying that Donald Trump pressured his DOJ to lie for him.
Wait.
Because even you agree that the election wasn't rigged.
Nothing in this implies that Trump is... Yeah, right. But you can say something that's not true without lying, right? So nothing in this implies that Trump is saying, go and say something that you willfully say something that you know to be false, right? He's saying, I believe that this is true. You haven't investigated it enough, so I'm going to hire somebody who will investigate it. That's what he's saying. And I don't agree with his claims. You're right. But
when he proposes this letter to Rosen and Donahue, and then they tell him that this letter is bad and here is why, because it was based off of the faulty ASOG report. So when he said, they tell Trump, this is why this letter is bad, and then he still tries to pressure them to send it, and then he fires them because they're not doing anything to investigate voter fraud, how is that not pressuring the DOJ to lie for him, even though he was already told by them that the letter was bullshit?
Right. It seems like he admitted in his testimony that Trump was frustrated because he wasn't doing enough. Those almost exact his words, yeah?
But why would you put in the guy he was trying to replace him with, his only qualification was sending the letter. That's the only reason that he was going to pick Clark, is because he said that he would send the letter for him.
You admitted to several other qualifications, and qualifications politicians do this all the time where they appoint people that have null qualifications for different positions. This is not a rare thing at all.
Not so bad that half of the DOJ threatens to quit if he does end up being put in that position.
Where did
I can tell you right now, it doesn't matter where he graduated from. He was a low-level environmental lawyer with no evidence.
Having experience in politics is not the only qualification that people use to appoint people to different positions in their cabinet.
Okay, well, in the interview with Hirschman, he talked about how he grilled Clark on what he would do as his first act as Attorney General, and he described how Clark laid out committing a felony as the first act of his Attorney General position. So, I mean, he clearly wasn't qualified.
I'm happy to look further into this. I have the document now that you've given it to me. I'm happy to look further into this. Obviously, it's
It's a long read. But not all of it's about this meeting. I was looking specifically about the January 4th.
Yeah, the context and the rest of it is likely important. It looks like it's like roughly a 500-page document.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, 220-page document. So, yeah, I'm happy to like concede for now and look more into it. But like, what other contentions do you have with Trump other than like election-related stuff? Do you have any policy disputes?
I have some minor ones that I don't really care about. It just comes down to conservative versus liberal, and I don't care about that too much. If it was just coming down to conservative versus liberal, I would not be on TikTok Live. I wouldn't make videos. I wouldn't do all this research. It's the fact that Donald Trump tried to assault our democracy that is most important to me. And it wasn't just this. It's just that's the most dead to rights crazy thing, is pressuring your DOJ to lie about election fraud findings. But I mean, in addition to this, like proposing the Eastman memo to Mike Pence, even though it says in the memo that it violates the Electoral Count Act, or having fraudulent electors perjure themselves in order to present false electorate slates.
What was that? What was the Eastman thing you said? So I'm going to go read that as well.
Just read the Eastman memo. It's a memo that was written by Donald Trump's lawyer that they tried to present to Mike Pence on January 6th that said that he could unilaterally make the determination as to which electors were fraudulent and which ones weren't. And in the memo, it literally says, this is where we diverge from the procedures laid out in the Electoral Count Act. So in the memo, it says that it violates federal law. It's just banking on the fact that it's going to be ruled unconstitutional later.
Sure, happy to look into that.
Okay.
So do you have any other contention?
No, just that Donald Trump doesn't care about our democracy, and that I don't think that I think that is, if not legally disqualifying, then like should be just morally disqualifying if we care about what the foundations of this country.
Sure. Okay. Fine. All right. I'll bring up somebody next then.
Okay.
Okay, man. I'll look into the memos and the testimony that you sent me.
All right. I'm gonna get off. Yeah. Just read the Eastman memo. Read the Eric Hirschman interview with the J6 committee, and read the Rosen and Donahue.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks.